Last month, I watched something on video that I still can't explain. I had just moved into this apartment, trying to find a distraction from my breakup. I didn't usually get into anything too dark or strange. I kept to myself, buried in work coding for my new remote job. One night, while unpacking, I came across an old video cassette. It was hidden behind a stack of dusty books. The label said, "For your eyes only." I felt curious. I set up an old VCR I had. My heart raced as I pressed play. The screen flickered, showing blurry images. There were shadows in the corners that twisted oddly. I felt a chill. Over the next few nights, I couldn't stop watching it. The images pulled me in. They were unsettling but fascinating. I began to hear whispers at night, soft and gentle, calling my name. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me, then things got weird. I noticed objects moving when I wasn't looking. My coffee mug would be on the table, then on the floor. I'd think, did I drop it? But I was sure I hadn't. It was exhausting trying to keep track of what was real. Looking in the mirror, my reflection felt unfamiliar. It made my chest feel heavy, but I shook it off as stress. Still, I was drawn to that tape. I felt like something from the screen was reaching for me. I tried to think about other things, but it never worked. Each night, I felt more tired. Finally, one night, I was done. I just wanted answers, so I watched it again. When I turned it on, I was shocked to see a figure on the screen. It was a man, just standing there, staring right at me. My heart raced, pulse quickening. It felt wrong to stare back, yet I couldn't look away. I wanted to ask if everything was okay, but the words wouldn't come. Then, he turned towards me. I swear he whispered my name. It sent chills rushing through my body. I couldn't breathe. I turned to grab the remote, to shut it off, but a small part of me held back. I needed to see what would happen next. When I looked back at the screen, there was nothing. Just static. I felt confused, like I'd lost a piece of myself in that moment. My heart raced, pounding in my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I stood up and turned off the TV, thinking it could end. But that night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I started to hear whispering again, louder this time. I felt something cold brush past me. I glanced around but saw no one. Panic bubbled inside. I worked through it, thought maybe it was just my imagination. But then I noticed the shadows, the corners of my apartment darkening more than usual. That evening, I sat down with the tape one last time. I pressed play, wanting to confront whatever twisted my reality. My heart was pounding out of my chest. The figures danced more now, shadows almost alive. And then, there he was again, that man. Only this time, he wasn't just staring. He was smiling, and I felt a dread rush over me. Before I could react, I heard him whisper my name again. But this time, it felt too close. It felt like he was right behind me. I spun around. The room was empty. My breath was heavy as I turned back to the screen, but then, it was me. My face, staring back. And just like that, the screen went black. I was caught in an endless silence, heart racing, the room closing in around me. I didn't know what would happen next. I was frozen for what felt like ages, staring at the blank screen. My heart hammered, piercing the eerie silence. I blinked hard, willing my mind to make sense of what I had just seen. My reflection. How could that be? I fumbled for the remote, my hands shaking. I hit rewind, hoping to catch a moment, some kind of explanation hidden in the shadows. The screen flickered back to life, but there was nothing, only the eerie hum of static. I could still hear the whispering, louder now, swirling around me like smoke. Desperate for clarity, I stood and paced the room. I needed a break from this madness. Maybe getting fresh air would help. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside, the cool breeze hitting my flushed face. It felt good, grounding in a way. But the whispers chased me. They weren't just in my head. I turned a corner, and my heart stopped. There was a figure at the end of the street. A silhouette standing under the flickering streetlight. I squinted, trying to make it out, but it was just a shadow. Then I remembered the man from the tape, the way he had smiled. I took a hesitant step back toward my apartment, striding quickly. Once inside, I shut the door and locked it, leaning back against it, fighting to regain control of my racing thoughts. I couldn't shake that feeling, like I was being watched again. That night, I tried to focus on work to distract myself, but all I could hear were those whispers slipping in and out of my thoughts. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, I retrieved the tape one last time. Maybe I could find something in it to end this. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the VCR. The old device felt heavier now, like it held secrets I couldn't yet grasp. I placed the tape in and pressed play. This time, I was ready to confront whatever was happening. The images flickered on the screen, shadows twisting in a hypnotic dance. Then there he was again, standing still but different, grinning widely. And then, without warning, the screen flashed. A jolt went through me, and I felt the room spin. My pulse raced. The whispers escalated, morphing into frantic cries. I clutched my head, trying to drown it out and focus. But the noise pulsed with an energy that felt alive, wrapping around me. In an instant, the figure on the screen was gone. The static returned, almost mocking me. I hit pause, trying to collect myself, but in that moment of silence, I caught a glimpse of something moving in the corner of my apartment. My breath caught, and as I turned, there he was again. This time, standing right in front of me. I stumbled back, heart pounding. This was no illusion. The man from the tape didn't just exist on the screen anymore. He was here, alive, staring straight into me with eyes that held an unending darkness. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. The air felt thick, suffocating. I was trapped between panic and the overwhelming urge to understand. Then, he raised a finger to his lips, as if to hush me, and everything went dark. I stumbled backward, falling to the floor. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out everything. I blinked, trying to adjust to the darkness. The figure had vanished, but the oppressive weight of his presence remained. I scrambled to my feet, panic flooding my thoughts. I needed a light. I whipped around, fumbling for the lamp on the side table. My fingers found the switch, but it refused to turn on. The room was engulfed in a heavy blackness that felt alive, as if it were greasing my palms with sweat and fear. Without thinking, I grabbed my phone, the faint glow of the screen piercing through the void. I quickly turned on the flashlight. The beam flickered around the room, cutting through the shadows. My breath hitched when I noticed something on the wall, a dark stain in the shape of a hand. My fingers brushed over it, freezing in shock. It was real. It felt cold and wet. I recoiled, wiping my hand on my pants. Was he still here? I had to know. I glanced toward the kitchen, the last place I had seen him. If I could just get there, maybe I could figure this out. Maybe there was an explanation hiding in the darkness. I tiptoed through the room, the soft thud of my heartbeat echoed in my ears. The whispers grew louder, relentless in their pursuit. They clawed at my mind, urging me to turn back. But I couldn't. Not now. As I neared the kitchen, my flashlight picked up movement. I froze again, pulse quickening. A shadow darted past the doorway. I swallowed hard. I wasn't prepared to confront whatever was in my home, but I couldn't let it win. I stepped into the kitchen, shivering as the cold air brushed against my skin. The light flickered ominously above me, and I directed my beam around. There was nothing. Just the table, the chairs, and the VCR. But then it happened. The static of the VCR crackled back to life. The tape ejected itself, landing on the floor with a thud. A sense of dread washed over me. I bent down and picked up the tape, the plastic warm from the machine, and wiped my shaking hands on my jeans. A thought nagged at me: what if I played it again? Would he come back? I hesitated. Curiosity vied with caution inside me, then I remembered the handprint. The man had marked his presence here, and deep down, a terrifying thought took root. This wasn't just about the tape. It was about something bigger, something darker that had latched onto me. With a sudden resolve, I took the tape back to the living room, where I felt slightly safer. I sat down at my kitchen table once more and placed the tape in the VCR. I pressed play, heart racing. An image formed on the screen, vibrant and jarring. And there he was, smiling again, that unnatural grin, but behind him now, I saw something: a shadowy figure stirring, lurking at the edge of the frame. Before I could react, the lights began flickering. The whispers crescendoed, as if the room was alive with them. I leaned in closer, trying to catch every detail. That's when I saw a flicker of familiar features behind the man. My breath caught. It wasn't just a figure, it looked like someone I knew. I squinted at the flickering screen, forcing myself to calm down. The figure behind the man had clearly taken form. It wasn't just a shadow. It looked like a friend: Mark. I hadn't seen him in months. He had vanished under mysterious circumstances, and everyone thought he was gone for good. But how? I whispered. The tape began to warp, colors distorting as if it had a heartbeat. I abruptly hit stop, the room descending into silence. My fear collided with confusion. What connection could there possibly be between Mark and this man? I stood up, adrenaline surging through me. My phone vibrated in my pocket, jarring me out of my thoughts. I pulled it out, half expecting a call from someone, anyone, to explain what was happening. But it was just an old text thread from Mark. There were no unread messages, just empty exchanges from before everything got weird. That it hit me then. If the tape had revealed anything, it had to hold a clue. I couldn't just sit idle, I needed more answers. Grabbing the VCR remote, I pressed rewind, heart thumping as I rewatched the scene. The man's grin stretched unnaturally wide as the footage rewound. Suddenly, I noticed something tucked into the corner of the screen: faint words scrawled across a wall in the background. I stopped the tape and took a deep breath, my heart racing with panic and curiosity. "Everyone lies," it read, faint but clear. A shiver ran down my spine. Who had written that? I was starting to feel like I was inside a horror movie, and I didn't like it one bit. As I turned away from the screen, seeking solace in the room around me, I heard a dull thud coming from the hallway. I clenched my fists, every instinct telling me to run but something else telling me to stand firm. The thud sounded again, this time more insistent, echoing into my psyche like a challenge. With trembling hands, I picked up my phone, using the flashlight once more to illuminate the darkness. The kitchen felt miles away, the shadows creeping closer as I crossed from the living room to the hallway. I felt like prey in an abandoned forest. "Mark?" I called into the darkness, voice cracking. But the only response was the eerie quiet. As I reached the doorway, I hesitated, torn between my desperate need for answers and the fear of what I might find. I stepped forward. The floor creaked beneath my feet, but I pressed on, each step heavier than the last. That's when I saw it. A door slightly ajar, leading to the basement, a place I had been avoiding since Mark disappeared. The shiver coursing through me sharpened into dread. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, then a voice, faint but undeniably familiar, floated up from the darkness below. "Help me," it pleaded. My heart plummeted. It was Mark. I couldn't be sure, but I felt it in my bones. Whatever was happening, it was about to escalate, and I could do nothing but step closer to the unknown. I hesitated at the top of the basement stairs, the grip of dread tightening around my chest. Something about that voice sounded wrong, like a record skipping. Still, I couldn't just walk away. "Mark?" I called out again, more desperate now. The silence answered back, thick and oppressive. I took a step forward, the darkness below swallowing the beam from my phone. Reaching the edge of the stairs, I noticed a flicker in the basement. Just a glimmer of light. I squinted, straining to see what was happening down there. As if sensing my presence, the light pulsed brighter for a split second. It was unsettling, like a heartbeat. "Help me, please," the voice echoed again, more urgent this time. I took a deep breath and forced myself to take another step down. The stairs creaked louder now, and I could almost feel the cold air wrapping around me. As I reached the bottom, my phone illuminated the space, revealing old boxes stacked haphazardly and dusty chairs long forgotten. And there, at the center, was a small television set flickering with static. My pulse raced as I recognized the faint outline of Mark, a distorted shadow trapped within the screen. "Mark." I rushed forward, but as I approached, the image shimmered, distorting his features into a grotesque mask. Fear ripped through me like cold water. "What happened to you?" I can't get out." "You have to do something," he stammered. His voice was rife with desperation, and I could sense a growing darkness around him, something that twisted the air, confusion tangled with fear. "What do you mean? How can I help?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Remember the tape," he replied, his words slurring into static again. "It wasn't just a warning, it was a way in. You have to find." Before he could finish, the screen flickered violently, the light splashing across the room. I reached to touch the television, but my hand stopped inches away. Something unseen tugged at my mind, pulling me back as if the very air was warning against it. Then I saw it, a shadow forming behind Mark, creeping from the edges of the screen. It was dark and amorphous, shifting with a life of its own. Panic surged through me, and I stumbled back. "Get out! Run!" Mark screamed, his figure slipping further into the chaos. I turned, racing for the stairs. The shadow surged forward, chasing after me with a speed that seemed unnatural. My heart pounded in my ears as I climbed swiftly, desperate to escape whatever evil was trying to merge into this world. As I burst into the hallway, the static-filled voice still resonated in my ears, "Everyone lies." I slammed the door behind me, gasping for breath. The basement was behind me, but the reality of what I had seen clawed at my sanity. Something was pulling at the threads of my life, but I wasn't sure if I could handle the truth. But as the shadows continued to tug at my heart, I knew one thing: I had to go back. I had to learn the whole story before it was too late. I spent the next few days in a fog. The daylight felt harsh, and every sound seemed amplified. I avoided the basement, but the memory haunted me, the way Mark's face flickered in and out, his desperate voice. I felt a tug, as if that dark presence was still calling to me. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I grabbed my car keys and drove to the old video store where I found the tape. It was a decaying building, the faded sign barely hanging on. I felt a twist of unease as I entered, the musty smell enveloped me, and the dim lighting set a stage for shadows. "Can I help you?" The clerk's voice startled me. He was a young guy with piercing blue eyes, an unsettling calmness about him. "I'm looking for a tape. A special one." My heart raced as I thought of the label, "The Reckoning." He narrowed his eyes, recognition flickering across his face. "That tape has a history. Not many people ask for it. What do you know about it?" I pressed, desperate. "It's a portal of sorts. A way to see things that shouldn't be seen. Be careful." His warning sent chills down my spine. "Things like what?" I barely managed to whisper. "Things that lie beyond. The ones trapped in between." He turned, rifling through a stack of old tapes as dread pooled in my stomach. "Why did Mark get sucked into it? Where is he?" I demanded. The clerk paused and looked over his shoulder. "That tape doesn't just show you the truth. It binds you to it. The more you watch, the more it wants you." A chill spread through me as he handed me an old, worn case. My heart hammered as I read the title, The Reckoning. I rushed home, unable to shake the feeling that I was running out of time. As soon as I stepped inside, I set the tape on my coffee table, staring at it as though it might leap up and swallow me whole. I hesitated, recalling Mark's frantic face. It felt wrong, but that need for answers clawed at me. Without another thought, I popped the tape in. The screen flickered to life, the familiar static filling the room. I sucked in a breath, bracing myself. Then it began. Images flashed and twisted, familiar places morphing into something dark and foreboding. I saw faces, old friends, previous voices of laughter now twisted in silent screams. That feeling of dread wrapped around me tightly. "Help me please." It was Mark's voice, echoing through the static. The same plea from the basement. My breath hitched. I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Was he still in there, lost in that horrid place? I felt a pull, an urge to keep going, to unlock whatever secrets lay embedded in those flickering images. Then the screen brightened dramatically, displaying a door I recognized from my house. My blood ran cold. That's when I saw it. A figure standing behind the door in the film. Someone clad in shadows, staring directly at me. A chill surged through the space, deepening the darkness around me. Suddenly, everything went dark. My heart raced, and I grabbed the remote to turn it off, but it wouldn't budge. The shadows danced closer, the connection between our worlds splintering apart in front of me. And then I knew whatever happened next would change everything. The silence that followed was suffocating. I sat frozen, my breath shallow as I searched for the button to power down the screen. The only thing that responded was the electric hum of the television, echoing in the still room. Just as the fear crested, something shifted within the dark. A whisper invaded the void, faint yet distinct, and it sounded eerily familiar. "Help me!" It was definitely Mark, his voice laced with more urgency now. I felt heat rising in my cheeks as panic began to swell. I had to do something. Out of instinct, I switched off the lights in the room, plunging myself further into that inky darkness. Maybe the shadows couldn't reach me here. Maybe that would help me think. I moved cautiously towards the door that led to the basement. I shouldn't have been going down there, but my feet had a mind of their own. The wooden floor creaked under me, each step weighted with dread. I could feel the looming sense of his presence, barely out of reach. I gripped the doorknob, heart pounding in my ears. I knew I had to confront whatever awaited on the other side, but before I could turn it, my phone vibrated violently in my pocket. The sudden noise startled me back to reality. With trembling fingers, I pulled it out to see a message from an unknown number. "Do not go to the basement." I stared at the screen, heart galloping. My mind raced. Who sent this? Was it a warning? It could be a prank, but an icy shudder crawled down my spine. My instinct screamed to heed the message, yet I couldn't shake the desperate need to find Mark. The urge to open the door intensified. I thought of him, his voice trapped, begging. I had to know if he was really down there. Slowly, I twisted the doorknob and opened the door, revealing the dark stairwell leading into the abyss. As I took my first step down, I heard it again, a faint sound, like nails on a chalkboard, followed by another plea. "Help me please, Mark." I called out, forcing my feet forward. As I descended, the musty scent wrapped around me like a shroud. At the bottom, I saw a glimmer of light coming from the far corner. I edged closer, trepidation pooling in my stomach. Then, it hit me. The smell. It felt like decay mixed with something sharp, a scent I had never experienced before. My breath caught. It wasn't just dark down there, the air felt thick, almost alive. Something was wrong, and that's when I saw it. Shimmering on the ground, partly hidden in the shadows, lay what looked like an old mirror. Its surface wasn't clear, but what I saw within it made my blood run cold. Reflections of things that shouldn't exist. Grotesque forms, lingering in anguish, pleading for release. "Mark?" I called again, desperation creeping in. There was no answer, only a whisper that seemed to rise and fall from the mirror's darkness. My fingers grazed the edge, trying to understand what I was seeing. But then the reflection shifted. One of those shadows lunged forward, reaching through the glass. A scream bubbled up in me, but it cut off as the basement door slammed shut above, plunging me into unyielding darkness. Something was in the house. And it was coming for me. Instinct kicked in as I spun around, pressing my back against the cold, damp wall. Panic twisted my stomach, and I fought the urge to scream. The oppressive silence enveloped me, only broken by the whispering shadows that lurked just beyond my sight. A low growl vibrated through the air, sharp and threatening. I strained to listen, hoping to discern any familiar sound amidst the buzzing in my ears. Then, the ground shifted beneath me, a faint scraping noise echoing from the other side of the basement, where the darkness seemed thicker. "Mark?" I whispered again, though my voice barely broke the heavy air. I had to find him. I had to be brave, even if every instinct told me to run. With shaky hands, I stepped away from the wall, inching toward the mirror. Its surface pulsed with an unsettling energy. Every distorted shadow in the glass felt like a gaze fixed on me, hungry and unrelenting. I felt an urge to look closely, as if the mirror might reveal something crucial, but dread clawed at my throat. The growling grew louder, closer. My heart pounded, and I took one hesitant step forward. Then, without warning, the mirror rippled like water disturbed by a stone. I staggered back, nearly falling into the darkness behind me. "Get away from it." The voice broke through the heavy air, but it wasn't Mark's. It was deep and malevolent, making my blood run cold. I turned, eyes wide, but saw nothing in the dimness that I needed to escape, to get upstairs, away from whatever hid in the basement. I turned on my heel, only to be met by flickering light from the corner of my eye. The light coming from the mirror had flared, revealing a figure in tortured, unnatural clarity. A woman, her wild hair twisting like smoke, stared back at me with eyes that held infinite sorrow. My chest tightened as I recognized her face. It wasn't just a shadow of despair, it was a reflection of horror. Suddenly, the door that had slammed shut earlier rattled violently, as if something on the other side wanted in. My legs refused to budge, my feet felt cemented to the floor. The woman in the mirror mouthed words I couldn't hear, but her expression screamed a warning. Then the shadows coiled, stretching towards me, hands reaching from the darkness. I stumbled back, finally finding my legs and charging for the stairs, adrenaline surging through me. As I raced up, the door creaked ominously. I caught a glimpse of the basement, a whirlpool of darkness with the figures inside swirling, screaming for help that would never come. The growling morphed into an anguished roar, shaking the very foundation of the house. "Mark!" I shouted again, desperate for his response. But there was none, only the silence that had returned, waiting like a predator. I reached the door and threw it open, slinging myself into the hallway. That I had to lock the door. I needed to keep whatever that was away from me. As I raced to the door, a chill swept through me, stealing the warmth of my urgency. I froze mid-step. Because there, standing just beyond the threshold, was Mark. But his eyes were dark and empty, the same shadows I had seen in the mirror swirling around him, feeding off his despair. I wanted to scream, to ask him what had happened, but fear chained my voice. The thing that had been calling to me wasn't just in the basement anymore. It had come for me, wearing his face, and it was smiling. I stood frozen, my breath hitching in my throat. Mark, the real Mark, was gone. This thing had taken his shape, or maybe it always had. "Mark?" I whispered, unsure I wanted to hear the answer. The thing's smile widened, revealing teeth too white, too sharp. Clenching my fists, I fought the urge to step back. "Didn't you miss me?" it said, its voice a sickening echo of Mark's words. "I've been waiting for you." Fear surged in my veins. I needed to escape. I forced my legs to move, backing away slowly, my heart pounding loud enough to drown out logic. "Come on, it's just us now," it beckoned, tilting its head to the side like an inquisitive predator. You want to know what really happened downstairs, don't you? A sickening nausea washed over me. The basement. If it was down there, whatever it was, then I needed to get away from it. I couldn't think of what it might be capable of. I had to get to safety. I turned to flee, but as I moved, the shadows in the hall flickered and twisted. I felt a sudden rush of cold air, like ice creeping along my skin. And then I heard it, the low growl again, softer now, echoing from the depths of the house. The door to the basement loomed behind me, inviting yet ominous. I could hear sounds faint, almost pleading. The growl twisted into whispering words, familiar but warped. It was a cacophony of voices. Mark's voice was among them, distorted with pain. I hesitated, torn between running back to safety and the desperate need to understand what was happening. I glanced back at the thing that looked like Mark. Its eyes glinted with hunger, and I knew it wanted me to dive deeper into this nightmare. Staying in the dark won't save you, it taunted, stepping slightly into the hallway, invading my space. You'll never escape what waits. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I turned and sprinted towards the nearest window, my heart racing. But panic washed over me. The basement door creaked, as if something was pushing against it from the other side. Don't leave yet. It called after me, the voice now dripping with mockery. I can show you so much more. You'll see, it gets better. I didn't stop to think. I dove for the window, the glass fogged with condensation as I slammed my fists against it. But it wouldn't budge. I was trapped, caught in a nightmare with no way out. Then everything went dark. A shroud of blackness swept over me, smothering the light. I gasped, feeling an oppressive weight envelop me. I was losing my grip on reality. And that's when I heard a soft thump behind me. I turned, eyes straining in the pitch black. I barely made out the faint outline of the basement door, swinging open. Something was coming through. I was paralyzed, heart galloping in my chest, every instinct screaming at me to run. The darkness felt thick, wrapping around me like a suffocating cloth. I turned back to the window, desperate for escape, but all I could see was my reflection, pale and frantic eyes darting around, searching for an exit. Don't be afraid, the thing Mark said, its voice like a serpent sliding through my mind. You've always known I'd come back. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the nightmare away, my mind racing. I had seen what lurked in the depths of the basement, a grotesque parody of my friend, caught between worlds, and I was not willing to join him. The faint thud grew louder, the door to the basement creaked wider, revealing a sliver of pulsing darkness that beckoned. With a burst of adrenaline, I swung around, smashing my fists against the glass again. I felt a moment of hope as it rattled under my blows, but it wasn't enough. I could feel the presence approaching, sniffing the air like a beast tracking its prey. I took a step back, almost losing my footing. Leave! I shouted, my voice breaking. You're not him. Mark's laughter echoed back, chilling and mocking. The shadows from the basement swirled out, thickening the air around me, encroaching on my vision like an incoming tide. I could see shapes clawing their way through the doorway, grotesque forms shifting and blending into one another. Come back to me, the fake Mark pleaded. You don't really want to be alone, do you? My breath quickened, terror surging. I knew I couldn't succumb to that voice, it wasn't him. I needed to get away from here. I spun around, eyes darting for other escape routes. That's when I spotted a glowing beacon, my phone, still flickering with light on the table just a few steps away. Focusing, I dashed toward it, praying the light might give me a sense of direction amidst the dark chaos threatening to consume me. The shadowy form slithered lower as I moved, and I felt the cold rush of air on my neck, a whisper close enough to send shivers shooting down my spine. You're running away from your only chance, it hissed. That I snatched my phone and pointed the flashlight towards the approaching darkness, illuminating the tortured faces trapped in its depth, an endless parade of forgotten souls begging for release. Mark was among them, his figure fading and melding into the pooling shadows. With trembling hands, I pressed the button on my phone to call for help, but the signal flickered out, leaving me only with silence and fear. I felt trapped, cornered by the myriad faces watching me as if my decision would seal my fate. Suddenly, I recalled the warnings, the clerk's words about the tape being a portal. My heart raced as realization set in: it was also a weapon. If it was truly a window to those horrors, maybe I could use it. I took a step back towards the VCR, praying for one last flicker of hope. "Why don't you join us?" The thing that wore Mark whispered. "You'd be so comfortable here." Its voice was turning seductive, coaxing me closer into the abyss that stretched behind it. Guided by desperation, I pressed rewind on the VCR, its mechanical whirs somehow sounding like the growing growls surrounding me. The images flickered, and I saw the man, that grinning figure, swell and flash on the screen, followed by echoes of twisted laughter. Something shifted in the air, and the whispers crescendoed around me, coaxing me toward the horror. In that instant, I ducked beneath the rising shadows, leaping forward and ripping the tape from the machine, ready to confront the source of all this darkness. I slammed it on the table, looking back at the doorway, watching those tortured expressions twist in agony as the darkness writhed. In one swift movement, I hurled the cassette toward the flickering screen. Cracks spiderwebbed across the glass, fracturing the film's light and swallowing whole the shadows that spilled forth. Everything shook, shadows erupted in sudden chaos, swirling with Zoftic fury, engulfing their own. The echoes of lost souls surged, their cries mingling with the distorted images on screen, creating a cacophony that blurred the lines between reality and nightmare. I shielded my eyes from the blinding glare, knowing that this might be my only chance, and then, it happened. A sound like shattering glass pierced the room, and the shadows collapsed into a black heap, dragging the echo of Mark with them. His cries mingled seamlessly into the fury of darkness, growing distant as the last flicker of light illuminated my sanctuary, a light that promised escape. As the room quieted, I stumbled back, breath coming in ragged gasps, the remnants of the whispers still trailing faintly behind me. I found myself standing alone in the eerie stillness, heart still racing, feeling the chill of what had just occurred. But there was no instant relief, just an overwhelming weight as I grasped at the edges of my sanity. I looked around the now eerily quiet basement, void of the sounds that had haunted me just moments before, heart pounding with realization of escaping the clutches of the dark. Yet as I turned to leave, a single question echoed back, deep within me. Had I truly escaped, or had I just chosen a different path, one that still lay tangled in shadows waiting to unveil themselves? I cracked the door open, stepping into the dim light, carrying with me the remnants of fear, the unsettling knowledge that the darkness never truly vanishes. I moved forward. But in the back of my mind, a cold sliver of doubt remained. Had I freed Mark, or was the darkness just biding its time? I would have to learn to live with that ambiguity as I stepped into the outside world that felt both familiar yet scarred. I moved to a different city shortly after. Sometimes, I check my phone to see if an old message from Mark comes through, but I don't hold my breath. I learned to push those thoughts aside, but those whispers occasionally creep back in at night. I still wonder if those things are waiting for me, lurking in the shadows, just outside the reach of my flashlight.